Today I'm here to talk about two complete opposites. On one hand, a big city, millions of inhabitants, lots of shops, enormous buildings, and a very busy life. Can you picture this landscape in your minds? What are you thinking of? Maybe New York, Paris, London? Who would not want to live in such a place? On the other hand, we have a small village, a bunch of houses placed together in the middle of the mountain, surrounded by nature. Only one cafe, no shops, 50 inhabitants, and a very relaxed and calm life. Imagine you wake up in the morning with the sun coming in through the window and with the singing of the birds as only noise. People always tend to consider that the city is a better place to live than the village. In the city you can do millions of activities, from going for a walk to going to a music concert. In the city you can spend the whole day going from shop to shop. In the city you can work in international companies. You can also practice lots of sports. In the city you can visit as many museums as you want. But above all, cities are known because of its multiculturalism. Cities present the greatest diversity of the world, combining lots of different cultures. Small villages are considered inferior than cities. People who live in cities always think that a smaller number of inhabitants and houses, a very reduced number of shops and cafes, and a rural lifestyle is worse than living in the great big cities. This is mainly because they haven't lived in such environment, because I'm sure that if they had tried it, 50% of them would think that villages are as good as them. People also tend to think that more is more, and as cities have more of everything, they are considered better. But this doesn't have to be always like that. Less can be more, and villages can be as good as cities. Well, I can tell you that since I was little, I've lived in Valencia, which you all know is a quite large and populated city, with lots of shops, cafes, parks, and restaurants, with lots of things to do. And despite of living in this great city, I feel as good, as happy, and as comfy in a small village than in the city. A village that may not seem very much, but it is a place where you know everybody and trust them all, where we only have one cafe and no restaurants, no shops either, but we still never get bored. A place where I only go twice or so a year, but each time I go I feel like I've never left. It's a place where I really feel like I'm at home. I remember being 3 or 4 years old, waiting impatiently for my parents to put all our bags and suitcases in the car, so that we could start our trip to my village for Miche as soon as possible. When we arrived there, my grandparents, uncles, and aunts were waiting for us. There was so much people and happiness in our house that it almost seemed like a party. As I've been growing, I've never stopped going to Formiche. There, I've made very good friends with whom I've lived millions of adventures, spent uncountable afternoons, ate hundreds of dinners, and gone to plenty of parties. I've also spent some of the best moments with my family. I will never forget that feeling of waking up, going downstairs, entering the kitchen, and hearing my grandma singing while preparing lunch, or when my grandpa came after a long hunting morning with our dog Linda, and how happy she was every time she saw me. From my village, I've also got lots of anecdotes and stories, like this one. It was about a year ago, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was coming back home after a great party night. I entered my house and my aunt was already awake. We talked for about half an hour, and when I was ready to go to bed, I suddenly heard my aunt screaming. A bull had just passed in front of our window. I immediately went to our backyard to close the door, which was completely opened, and saw the bull standing right there in our backyard. I closed the door and went to warn everybody, but a group of boys were already coming to get the animal back to the main square or to the truck, whatever was easier. At the end, nothing happened. They got the bull out of our garden and they took it back to its animal breeding. So what I really want to tell you with all this is not that the villages are always better than the cities or that you have to love villages. What I really want to tell you is that people most of the time have a wrong idea of the differences between villages and cities, and that if you really know the truth, you may change your opinion on this subject. I truly hope that this speech and my own personal experience make you meditate and think on this topic. Thank you and goodbye.